Yeah. Right.
Really? My passwords don't have.
Are we ready? We're ready? Okay. Welcome, everyone. I am going to call the regular Moab City Council meeting to order on February 27th at 6:01 p.m. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Chris, would you mind leading us in the pledge this evening?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Chris. This is something I need to ask you guys to do. Marcy is here to make a presentation tonight on your consideration of banking services. And she has class at 7 o'clock. So I would like to ask for a motion to amend the agenda to move item of general business 6.1 to be heard after public comments. So if I could get a motion to amend the agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to allow Marcy to do her presentation first.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Colin. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Oops, I didn't even get an aye and I knew it was going to pass. Right. Thanks, everyone. And Marcy will do public comments and then I'll have you come up. So do we have any public comments this evening? Seeing none? Marcy, you're up.
David, do you want to talk with me? Just in case there's questions. Thank you guys so much for being flexible. I do have class at 7, so I appreciate the opportunity to do this a little earlier. So I don't actually have slides or anything to provide, but I did want to just touch base a little bit on like our process and why we decided to do an RFP for our financial institution. So the city of Moab has been with the same financial institution as far back as 2001 that we can find, but they were First Security Bank before that. So we don't actually know if it was longer than that. So we have not actually gone out for a banking RFP we have no record of that Summer and I could find. So we decided to do an RFP so that we could look at our options, see if there's like better fees that we could have assessed for us, interest rates, etc. So we did just that. We sent out an RFP and we restricted it just to local branches because we have to have the ability to deposit cash and checks because the city still accepts both of those. So we have to be able to take it to a branch and communicate with an actual teller, etc. So we reached out. We had 4 of the 5 local branches respond to the RFP. And the process for that RFP, we received the response. We don't open them until the RFP closes. Then we sit down and we pick one item. In this case, we did fees. We just assess like, here's the fees, and then we scheduled to assess those later. Once we set up the meeting to assess the RFPs, we went through the RFPs from every single response line by line, broke it down based on what our requirements were outlined for the RFP, like what we required and what we desired. And we only focus on the required portion because the desired is for us, like it's something we want, but it's not gonna like break whoever is responding to the RFP. So in that case, we assessed those, and I think there was like 7 categories that we did, and we rated and ranked each of the people who responded to the RFP. And after we completed that process, we decided based on those responses and based on the criteria that the city requires for banking services or financial institution services was Mountain America Credit Union met that top notch. And I want to explain a little bit why they did. So we had different weights based on like customer service, things like that. To us, customer service is utmost important for any interaction that we have. And I want to just touch base that with Wells Fargo, we have not had the best customer service. And that was part of the motivation for us to be able to go out with the RFP. So with that said, we came to the conclusion that Mountain America actually hit every single aspect that the city needs for our day-to-day operations. Keep in mind, this is only day-to-day. This is like our payroll, our accounts payable, our accounts receivable. That is what this accounts for. It has nothing to do with any other operations other than day-to-day operations. And with that, do you guys have any questions?
Questions for Marcy? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve the banking service agreement with Mountain America Credit Union.
I'll make a motion to approve banking services with Mountain America Credit Union.
Motion by Jason, second.
I'll second.
Second by Tawny. Discussion, Jason?
No, thanks for doing the work.
Thank you.
Tawny?
No, I'm just glad I don't have to go through all that to open a bank account.
Anybody else? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. There
Thank you
go,
guys
Marcy.
so much.
Nice job.
Great work, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And for the record, it was my very first RFP and I have to thank David.
Strong work.
Great.
Good job, Marcy.
Thanks, guys.
Have fun at your class tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have a presentation for the Grand Area Mentoring Program with Chris Marsh and Dan McNeil. Great program that you guys provide for our community and looking forward to hearing about what you all do.
Thank you. Let me just pull up our slides. All right, well, first of all, thank you very much for giving us some time to talk to you tonight about this program that has been around for 19 years, making a quiet but really important difference in Moab. So back in 2005, the Department of Education saw Moab and said, whoa, there's some really big risk factors here, and there are too few protective factors. You need a mentoring program. And so the department granted the school district a 3-year award to start a mentoring program. And that's when this got off the ground. At that time, antisocial behavior in Grand County was kind of off the charts. It had the highest juvenile arrest record in the state per capita at that moment. And drug use was more than double the state average, and had plummeting at academic achievement, especially amongst at-risk youth. And rewards for pro-social involvement was only half the level of the state average. And so we started this youth mentoring program, and it is a prevention program. So we're focused on preventing academic failure for at-risk kids, drug use, dropout, self-harm, and violence. And prevention can be a tricky thing because when you prevent it, you're not seeing it anymore. And so it's difficult to measure. But back in 2005, all these things were a problem for the school district, and the school district has since then made some progress, and it is thanks in part to mentoring. With mentoring, we bring volunteers from the community into the schools. They meet one-on-one with at-risk kids with the goal of pointing them toward a better future. The relationship is the intervention. And we've had Charlie Appelstein, this youth care prevention specialist. We've brought him here to Moab to train our mentors several times. And he has told us that if you look into a child's life, this is a child maybe who has committed acts of violence before. You look into their life and you now see this one factor present, you can stop worrying about them so much. And what is that one factor? It's the consistent presence of a caring adult. And so that's what we're doing. We're bringing mentors to these kids who are recommended to the program by teachers, therapists, principals, and parents. These kids are recommended because they are struggling in a variety of ways. Some of them have had substantial trauma in their life. They may have depression or learning disabilities. 95% of the kids in the program qualify for free and reduced lunch. So almost all of them are living in poverty. And so we're serving about 6.6% of the student body.
But it's not just any 6.6%. This is the kids who need it most. And the mentors that we bring to meet with them are kind adults that we thoroughly screen and then train. They are range in age from 18 to 83, and they are really kind people, some of Maud's best. So we get to bring them into the schools to meet with these kids who like need a leg up. They need some luck in their life. I should mention also the families want to do this. This is never court ordered. This is purely voluntary on the part of the mentee and the families. So this is, it begins as a school-based program. Mentors and mentees meet on school grounds once a week. And at first it was strictly school-based, but then we realized that by the time these kids mature and they get to like middle and high school, you know, meeting at school with their mentor isn't so cool anymore. So we had them start transitioning to community-based mentoring. So this may be the only program in the country that transitions from school to community-based mentoring. But the reason we did that is because we want these matches to last for a long time. The longer the matches last, the better it is for these kids, the more likely they are going to have good outcomes. And you can see on the slide, it says the match length for this program is 500% better than the national average. And that is compared to a Department of Education study where they found that the average school-based match in the United States lasts for 6 months. And that is a very short time, especially when you know that a relationship could be worse for a kid if it lasts less than 6 months than if they'd never even had one in the first place. So we have these matches coming together and they're meeting for a long time, and the results are awesome. These kids are getting in less trouble. They're attending school more often. They're getting better grades, and these matches are lasting. And these goals were actually set by the Department of Education. They said this is what we should be aiming for. And every year, these kids are outperforming those goals. So I also like to share that well, last year we collect a lot of data on these kids, and last year we surveyed parents as usual, and 100% of the parents in the program agree that their children are happier since being matched with a mentor. That is not a trivial finding. A lot of these kids are suffering from some serious challenges in their life, and so the happier kids are more likely to come to school, being able to learn, getting along with peers. So this program is having an effect. You saw the data, but I also like to talk a little bit about what the experience is for the mentor and the mentee. And actually, Chris is here today to talk to us a little bit from the mentor's perspective.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you again for letting us come and share our enthusiasm about this program. From my perspective, I've lived here 10 years. My career was a 50-year career in running nonprofit organizations and raising money. And I came here and I started teaching. And so one of my teaching jobs, I was with 5th graders. And I saw 2 kids with mentors that year. And I saw the power of that mentoring relationship. And last year I thought, I want to do this. So I signed up, I went to the orientation, and they did a background check to make sure I was okay. And I started working with this little girl that you see me with. She'd had a lot of trauma, a lot of difficulty in her life, problems with family, learning disabilities. And the picture is the first day we worked together. This was our first day. And we worked on that painting together. I did part of it, she did another, and we truly collaborated. And I thought, how wonderful to collaborate with a 1st grader at my old age. And I'm going to be 80 in April, so I'm one of the older mentors. So again, what happened to her through that year, last year, she became student of the month in a couple of months. And her teachers said, they thanked me for that. And I thought, but this wasn't really me. It was my being there for her, totally present, listening to her actively, responding, no agenda, just being there present for her. And that has made such a difference in her life. And of course, it's made a difference in mine too. This year, she began to excel in math. She was in special ed math. Last week when I was there meeting with her teacher said she's no longer going to special ed math. She can now stay in her classroom. So academically, there have been wonderful changes. Her focus has improved. And what do we do each week? We don't do math. We don't do reading. One of her teachers said, help her with reading. You know what we do? We meet for snack right after school. We sit and sort of debrief. How was your week? What did you like best? What did you like worst? How are things at home? And I get a chance to really hear from her how she's doing. And then we go out and play. Or maybe we'll do art. Or maybe we go to the bookstore. We did that because they gave us $25 vouchers for each of the kids, thanks to somebody, I think, in this room who was here. Anyway, we do activities that are enrichment activities. Even at my old age, not walking very well, I tried to go on a hike with her. We went to Lower Courthouse Wash, and I actually made it halfway. She went with the other people, but again, it was an experience that she and I will never forget. What we do is laugh together. We talk with each other. I listen, and that's the power of mentoring.
And you know, kids say things. This is a sixth grader. He said, mentoring feels great. Feels like I always have a person to talk to. He's basically like a father to me. He gives me life lessons. He tells me what I had to work on in basketball, and we just get along. And another said, mentoring actually gave me the courage to come to school. And another said, this is a fifth grader, mentoring has made me kinder, more respectful, and happier for everyone else. She helps me. We go outside and talk. It makes me feel way better. I love mentoring. And so actually since 2008, when they did the Sharp survey, we've found that a lot of these risk factors have gone down, especially in the school domain. Of course, a lot of this mentoring is happening at school. Some of the protective factors have come up. Rewards for pro-social involvement have reached nearly the state level. And it's not just thanks to mentoring, it's thanks to lots of initiatives the schools are taking. But mentoring is a very important part of that puzzle. And I also wanted to share this with you. This is a picture of a mentor and mentee who we matched in elementary school. And that mentor matriculated with that kid through the years, and he graduated early from high school this year, which is a big success. I snapped that picture of them doing a handshake lesson outside of the new middle school. And, you know, they're still in touch. And, you know, this is one success story. We have lots. I also included on that slide this example of the different costs that interventions can have for kids who may be struggling. You can see that, you know, our program is around the target youth intervention program level, which is about $2,000 per kid, $2,000 per kid. So it's incredibly affordable. And when you think about what we're preventing, you know, we're preventing dropout, we're preventing school failure, we're preventing suicides, we're preventing violence at school. We all know what that means, you know. And so, you know, mentoring is an important part of this community, and it's maybe not, you know, there for us to see all the time, but every single day of the week, mentors and mentees are meeting out there in our community, and they're pointing these kids toward a better life.
So we're here to ask for your consideration to support us in some way, especially financially. Right now, the RAP program, we don't fit in. City has been giving us funds in the past. We're here to ask you to think about how we're really preventing difficulty in this community. I was a victim advocate, and that's how Luke and I know each other. years ago. We used to go to those trainings in Solly when you were at Sea Haven. So I, as a victim advocate, I certainly saw family dynamics that result in kids having difficulty in school. And this program really does make a difference. As a former director of foundations, I used to see a lot of prevention programs who would claim that they were actually working. Not all of them do. The fact that this program works is something we also know. We report as a mentor every week about our encounter with our mentee. So there's always professional supervision. It's just not feeling good stuff. We actually report and we are supervised by the staff every week so that there are no questions, there's no difficulty. When there's an issue, we get support to fix that. And that's why we have a professionally run organization. Our budget is $191,000 a year, which is very small. We're serving 75 to 90 kids with mentors. And so the cost per student is $2,000. We've asked businesses, I've been out contacting businesses, organizations. We've been making presentations throughout the community because we do need assistance with funding. The problem in this community is sometimes the culture of philanthropy hasn't really developed in a lot of ways. And so it's really hard every year to make up a difference when a funder can't do it anymore. And it's really hard to replace a $3,000 gift. And so we're asking you to consider even putting this perhaps in your budget. And I know we've talked to the county, we've asked them to help us as well. Economic development is very interested in helping us. And we need to stabilize our finances. And by your support and the counties and economic development and the school district, we're asking them for more. You know, we really feel we can get on our feet and be sustainable. And that's the goal, because we feel our program works, it's professionally run, and it's really making a difference. So we'd like you to consider helping us out.
Thanks. Can tell you we're a professional fundraiser. It's like.
Can we have some questions?
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can.
So the 75 students that you have, is that currently meeting at least the obvious need in the community, or do you have a waiting list, or do you have,
We always have a waiting list.
you always have a waiting list?
Yes, we do. Yeah, I mean, of course, one of the challenges is just finding enough mentors, the people who can make the commitment for every single week, because, you know, that consistency is very, very important. We just trained up, you know, I think 18 new mentor candidates. But we scared some of them away because we talked about how important the commitment is to this. And so we'd rather have them not, you know, join up if they're not going to be able to stick it out. But I think we're going to have 9 of those people become mentors for the program. So, you know, we're always recruiting and trying to meet that need. But, you know, yeah, we have a waiting list always.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have any questions, but just very appreciative of the program. I've had several friends who have served as mentors, and it's been a really positive and affirming experience for them. And yeah, I as Kristen had referred, we very frequently dealt with the after effects. And so I'm all about prevention. I think preventing things ultimately is the cheaper solution to the community. If we want to look at it from a fiscal perspective, but also just that I know a lot of the kids that are part of this program really don't have a lot of stability in their lives, and to have somebody be able to bring that in, I think really goes a long way in kind of showing some of the academic success that the participants have had in this. To me, I think ultimately helps create a population that is more invested in Moab once they are done with schooling, rather than wanting to get the hell out of here because things are bad. So yeah, I'm very, very thankful for all the work that you do, and for the community and all the people who participate as mentors. I know when kids don't have like a positive role model to look to, they look wherever they can. A lot of times that's the internet, and we know that's a minefield out there. And just to have that personal direct connection. And yeah, like I had friends who like literally stopped social interactions because their mentee needed to talk to them. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming out here and kind of giving us some more insight into not just like the data points, which are really impressive, but also just the actual stories behind what's going on like a week-to-week basis. So thank you for everything.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lou.
Dan, how many of those 19 years, how long have you been with the mentoring program?
I've been with it since the beginning.
Yeah,
Wow,
Yeah.
nice.
he's like the founder.
Yeah.
I love this program. I love the people we work with. So it's a privilege.
And he's also a mentor.
Yeah.
He does that too, in
Of course
addition
he is,
to,
yeah.
Had a great session with my mentee today playing basketball.
Any other questions, comments
No,
from you
just
guys?
Thank you for all you're doing. This is really, really impressive.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't know how you can do it and then let them go. You know?
we still are in touch, people are still
I
in
know.
touch with their kids over these years. We were just talking about somebody today, and you know, these relationships are deep. And even just for an hour a week, just think about that. But there's such depth in the relationships that last. Somebody that Dan knew, worked with years ago, still is in touch.
Mhm.
I mean, after many years of not being mentored, but there's still that relationship that I find it astounding. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see and to experience on my own. You know, it's just, it's really special, and you can tell, but I'm really passionate about this program. I don't like to do much without being passionate anymore. I'm at an age where I get to do that.
You are.
I can pick and choose.
Wish there were some adults you could mentor.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure I'd be as good. I don't know.
And
Well, thank you, guys.
I did include the
Yes, this
handouts
is
for everybody.
great.
Yeah.
And does this have information for potential mentors to be able to know what the process is, or is there a place for?
We have a brochure, but they could go online also.
Okay,
On both newsletters, my phone number's on there.
Okay.
So anybody can, or and our website is on there as well. So
Great.
people can find us.
Okay.
My class.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Okay, David. We have an department update on our financials, July through January of 24. And David's just gonna give us a little briefing. All the information you need is in your packet.
This is right. Good evening. Yes, so the way that this works, for those of you maybe not as acclimated to this, the state requires that we produce a monthly basically profit and loss statement, and you know, in the interest of disclosure and transparency and all those things, publish that somehow out there in the world and make the council aware of it. And this is our way of doing that. So we try to do that every month, and then every quarter produce a more in-depth balance sheet statement, which has things like information around like how much is in a fund balance, what our current assets are in those funds and liabilities and things like that. So we're just in the monthly reporting P&L piece of it right now. So if you have any questions about specific line items or amounts or whatever, I can certainly do my best to answer that. But I'd say from a very high level, broad arm wavy perspective, there's nothing that looks really out of sorts from my perspective yet in terms of the budget, in terms of expenditures and revenues. I will say we did get in our sales tax and sales and use tax numbers for the month of December, and that took us to about, at this point, we're probably about 1.5% over the revenues that we had last year, which is about 1.5% under what we were projecting thus far for the fiscal year. But as you can imagine, that is just but a snapshot. And so, you know, as we ramp up into spring, those numbers will likely change. And I always say it's important to just take a much broader perspective around revenues and not necessarily sort of base a lot of judgment on one set of numbers. With that.
Questions for David?
Stunned again.
If you ever have any questions or you want some explanation about reading the reports, David's there to help.
Absolutely.
So don't feel free to contact him. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
David.
David.
All right, next up, we have our consent agenda, approval of the minutes from February 13th, regular city council meeting, and approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $914,398.78. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Caitlin, second,
I'll second.
second by Luke. Discussion, Caitlin? Nope. Luke? Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, now we have a public hearing. General business item 6.2, a public hearing for a permanent community impact fund board application for the downtown master plan. My understanding is we've already submitted a pre-application. Is that right? Or not? Okay, all right. So the application is in. And now we're doing the public hearing, which is a requirement for that application.
Right. So tonight we'll just give a quick presentation, ask you to open the public hearing and ask for comments and close the public hearing when you see fit. So as you just mentioned, we already put in an application for this through the CIB, and I just want to point out that this is for the application for the CIB money, and I'll get into how much that is in just a minute here. This isn't approval of the plan. We haven't created the RFP yet or anything like that. We are going to model some of it off of the previous, but it definitely will be a new RFP. It'll focus on the downtown, and it is a strategic planning priority, but we'll also be looking at, since I got a map up here and I circled the downtown, I also want to show that we're definitely going to be looking at the nodes that interconnect with the downtown, all the different districts and nodes that we have and how they interact with one another, how we go back and forth, transportation, and how they support one another as well. So moving on, we'll be addressing several strategies. The biggest strategy probably will be infrastructure and pedestrian safety and bicycles, street design, parking, and so on. We'll go through all of these things. They will all be part of the process, and there will be a large public process as well, so we can get people's ideas and their opinions on what they think would work, what's not working, and so on. So we will develop objectives. I'm not going to go through all of these, but some of these might be objectives that we put in. These are typical objectives for a downtown master plan, looking at potential guidelines for urban design. Now, this could be anything from facades, probably not, but to signs and garbage cans and street furniture that we have out, like benches and garbage cans, like I just mentioned, things like that. All the way down to resilience and sustainability, and then implementation, and then how we monitor it going forward. So down to the resources. So it is going to cost money. We did some research with Richard's help. We were able to find some plans that were recently completed with architectural firms and planning firms that do operate in Utah. We think that $250,000 for the plan is a good estimate. That would be $50,000 through the CIB grant for planning and $200,000 potentially coming from the general fund, which is in the budget that's going to be proposed that Carly will be looking at and potentially be proposed in front of the city council. So that's another step that this will have to go through as well. So that is it. We're not making any recommendations or anything. We just need to open the public hearing.
Questions for Michael before I open the public hearing?
Michael, why was that breakdown chosen, the 5,200?
I think it had to do with the $50,000 was a threshold for a planning grant and a certain process.
Right, that's all.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to open the public hearing on the CIB application for the downtown master plan at 6:35 PM. Anybody from the public want to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:35 PM. And we don't need another public hearing on this one. It's the CDBG that we do. Okay. All right, we have no action on this item, so we did our due diligence here for the application and hopefully, how does that work? I mean, because this is a little different. Does this go before the CIB board?
Actually.
I don't think it does. Yeah,
No, it's.
come on up then. Microphone.
No, it will not be going in front of the CIB board. It's an expedited process that's just reviewed internally in the CIB organization. And yeah,
Just the size. If they would approve the grant?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any idea when we'll hear? Because, there's a real strict schedule when you go before the CIB board. I just wonder if they have the same kind of schedule when they announce.
no, they didn't give me many details. I would imagine it's at least before the next CIB board meeting and on June 1st, I think is when that would be.
Okay,
I would imagine a few weeks to a month.
okay,
We'll probably be
great.
hearing back.
Let us know when you hear.
Of course.
Looking forward. That's going to be a great project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I closed the public hearing, did that. Next, we have consideration of the approval of mayoral appointment to the RAP Tax Advisory Committee. Colin, you were a part of that. Were you at the meeting yesterday? Were you able
I
to
was,
attend?
yep.
Great. We had, my understanding is we had 2 applicants that applied, and the committee is recommending Zoe Houston to replace Barbara Hicks. She was appointed to a 2-year term, which ends on 12/24. Barbara was a member at large, so Zoe would also be a member at large, and her term will end at the end of next year. And so I'm going to ask for a motion to consider the approval of Zoe Houston to the RAP Tax Advisory Committee. And Colin, do you have anything you want to add?
No, 2 great candidates. Zoe would be wonderful on that committee, and so I would like to make a.
Motion, yeah,
Can I
please.
make a motion to accept, I'm sorry, what was the motion?
To approve my appointment to the RAP Tax
I'd
Advisory.
like to make a motion to approve the mayor's appointment to the Rep TAC committee.
Great. Second.
Second. Go ahead.
Second by Caitlin. Any discussion, Colin?
None.
Caitlin?
I think Zoe would be a great addition to the committee.
Great, good. Anybody else? All right, all in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Our last item of business. I
thought this was gonna be a long agenda. I don't know why not.
I'm at 7:30 and we're already over.
Don't let the gift horse in the mouth.
I know, right? This last one could be interesting. Anyway, it's a pre-annexation discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 05/2024, resolution approving the Red Rocks Flat pre-annexation agreement for property located at 1410 South Highway 191, Moab, Utah 84532. This is, if you all remember, those of you that weren't here, that were here last year, Ellen Weinstein, we approved her annexation. This is another piece of property that's adjacent to that, and she's proposing the same development with the same agreement that we reached with her for the pre-annexation that we did before. Michael will explain all that to us.
Excuse me, Council and Mayor, I'm having
Yes.
a hard time hearing.
Okay,
So if you can just speak a little more loudly, I'd appreciate it.
will do, Lisa. Is that better?
Yeah,
Okay. So just so you know, Michael is also, for the benefit of everybody, every time we have a pre-annexation, it seems that sometimes council needs to have a review of what the process looks like. So whenever, and we have several coming up this year. And so I've asked Michael to just do a brief review of the process so the community and you guys can understand how the process works. So take it away, Michael.
Okay, so I'm sorry, it's not going to be that exciting. We'll try to make it quick, but it's a pre-annexation. We'll go over the process a little bit and talk about what the pre-annexation is. But with pre-annexations, we don't get into a lot of detail about the project. We get into overviews of what the project or what the property is going to provide if it is annexed into the future, so we have an idea. But we'll be looking at site plan and things like that. And I apologize, I just have to get back to share screen. Okay, so we will start with the annexation process. And I will wish my computer to work. There we go. Okay, so the annexation process is a legislative process, which means the city council has broad discretion on whether or not you annex a property. Generally speaking, though, the general plan dictates what properties you can annex, and each city is required to have an annexation element or an annexation plan within their general plan. We do have one. That yellow boundary that you can see around the city is our annexation plan. So if a property were to request annexation within that area and it was contiguous with the city, and we'll get into some of the other details, we can consider it, or we can bring it to the city council to consider for potential annexation. We start with the pre-annexation, and this just helps us understand what the developer is hoping to do with the property. Is it a property that we want into the city? Is it going to meet one of the council's strategic objectives? Is it something that's going to make the city a better place? And can we serve it? The city council, after the pre-annexation agreement, if you agree to that, an annexation process can begin, and that goes through the city recorder's office. And the city council can accept or reject the petition at that point. If they do accept the petition, it goes forward. And then we start to review. There's lots of different things that happen, and you can look at this, and I believe this will be posted on our website as well, so people can take a look at this with the details. But if it starts going through the process, which if it's meeting all the criteria and following the same plan as the pre-annexation agreement, we would assume that it will. And the planning commission will have a review. They will make a recommendation to the city council, and then the city council will have the final review and either approve or deny the annexation. And again, it is a legislative agreement, a legislative decision. So you have broad discretion. It's totally up to the city council whether or not you annex the property. There's no objective criteria other than the property has to be on the annexation plan, and you have to be able to serve it and things like that, which we'll go over now for just a second. So as we're considering these agreements, these are the steps that we will go through as staff as we present these to the city council. First, does it comply with the code, with the city code, with the annexation plan? Is what they are requesting good? Does it align with our current and future plans? Does it safeguard the city's interests, and does it pay for itself? You know, is this something that's going to come in and be a good neighbor, pay for itself? Is it logical? Can we provide municipal services to it? And that's an important one. And that's why we pretty much only look at properties that are contiguous with the city boundary. It's very hard to, or it gets very expensive to provide services when you're leapfrogging over other, not in this case municipalities, but over the county to provide services. And then how would approving it affect your strategies, goals, objectives that you have adopted? Will it bring housing to the city? Will it bring any capabilities to the city that we already don't have? Does it meet all of those other criteria that are important to the city council that you discuss at strategic planning? So that's pretty much the process for pre-annexation agreements. And we're just talking about pre-annexation agreements tonight again. So
Questions for Michael on the process for annexation. There is a public hearing piece as well. When does
Yes.
the public hearing?
the hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, council, but I believe the hearing happens in front of the city council because it's a legislative decision.
Right. And so that would be towards the end.
It'd be at the end.
process.
Yeah. I mean, you,
at the certification. Right. So any questions? Okay. Let's move on to the project.
all right, so the project, the one that we're talking about is Red Rocks 2, and it's a companion to a previous pre-annexation and annexation that is going forward, or one that has already been approved, actually. And that's Red Rocks #1, or Red Rock Flats #1. The one we're looking at is the companion, and it's #2, right next to Red Rock Flats #1. It's at 1410 South Highway 91. It's Ellen Weinstein. We've worked with her before. She's been very good to work with. She generally does apartments, rental units, bringing housing to the community. We are looking at the potential for a C4 commercial change if this were to be annexed into the city. You can see the connection there. The connection is to close to the USU property, close to Aggie Boulevard. And that's the connection that it has to the city. But this entire area is within the annexation boundary of the city of Moab. So just speaking of the project, you can see Highway 191 on the left, and up is north. And what we have is we have Red Rocks Phase #2. The access will be from Red Rocks Phase #1. So that arrow that just popped up is the access for vehicles. There's no access to the highway from this particular parcel, but the development being 2 parcels will have access to the highway from Red Rocks Phase 1. She's proposing a total of 60 units. Of that, 50 she is willing to dedicate or deed over or restrict as AEH, active employment households. Now, one thing that we considered when we were talking about these projects is we do a pre-annexation agreement with a concept plan. And we're looking at this concept plan. This is all we have right now. She's showing us what she's planning on doing. We're looking at to see if it's feasible. Does it make sense? Is it going to work? Can we do all of those things that we talked about a few minutes ago? But she probably hasn't spent all the money on engineering and all the work on architecture and things like that at this point, which we wouldn't expect, because she needs to find out whether or not the city council wants this parcel within the city of Moab or if it's going to stay in the county. So we are starting to implement a piece on our proposed implementation of a piece into the pre-annexation agreement that says that based on the number of units that they've disclosed with their concept plan, whatever percentage is going to be AEH, in this case it's 50%, then and 60 units, then the total would be based on this concept plan, 30 units. But if she gets in there and starts engineering and starts working this out and finds that she can only get 58 units, it would still be 30 units. It would be 50% of the total units, or 30 based on the 60 today, whichever is more.
And she's also indicated in her previous annexation that really she anticipates it to be 100%. But for this agreement, she's willing to dedicate 50% of the units.
Yeah, her target on this, most likely, most of them will be active employment households, but it will only be restricted to 50%. So, and well, just in terms of what she's planning to build, that does make a lot of sense. They're long-term rentals. Makes sense that they would be people who are living, working in the community. We are recommending the pre-annexation agreement resolution, which is up there. It's in your packet. We would like to move forward with this pre-annexation. We do think it's a good companion to Red Rocks Phase #1. It works out pretty well. We still have things to work out with them as far as, design and all those things like that go. We're still working with Red Rocks Phase #1. But this is an important parcel to annex because, as you can see, the proximity to the highway and the proximity to driveways on the highway, it makes a lot of sense. UDOT would like us to annex this property as well so that they don't have to grant a second access for a property right next to Red Rocks Phase #1. So it works out well for that too. That's not the only reason why we'd want to annex this. The AEH, I think, is the reason why we're making the recommendation for annexation.
So this will be one development, essentially, it's just in phases.
It is,
Is
yeah.
that correct?
Correct. It should be seamless. I mean, we'll always probably see the seams because we saw it as two different pieces, but as a development, it should feel like with landscaping and other features and drive aisles and the way the buildings are situated, it should just feel like one development, one complex.
Does this one have a commercial or a retail end of it? Our one, the
The first one did.
first one does,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
then, but this one's just all housing.
This one, as far as we know, well, the way it's proposed, it's all housing.
Okay.
Yeah. But it would be zone C4. That's something that she could negotiate later if she wanted to change. She's not saying that that's what she wants. We don't expect that to be the case.
Any other questions for Michael? How many total units with phase 1 and 2?
Oh,
150? 150?
yeah, I think, it's at 150, I think. 132. Is it in the memo?
No, I looked up the red RRF1. And that was 72 units. 72 or 60.
Okay.
132. Still, that's a good number.
That's a good number. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. I move that the Moab City Council approve the Red Rock Flats 2 pre-annexation agreement resolution number 05-2024 for property located at 1410 South Highway 191, Moab, Utah, 84532.
Second,
Second that.
second by Colin. Discussion, Jason.
No, I think that this makes sense to do this right here, and it's the same developer and brings in more housing.
Colin,
So excited about more housing, especially apartments.
right?
Mhm.
Anybody else?
I would just say, because this is so close to USU, I appreciate that it's an and/or AEH employment, active employment or Title IV, just bringing in, recognizing that so many potential tenants of this would be related to the USU campus. So I appreciate that addition, flexibility.
Anybody else? All right, we have a motion made by Jason to approve resolution 05-2024, seconded by Colin. All those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And that is the end of our general business. Crazy. This is so nice, but don't get used to this. Promise you, it's not gonna be like this all the time. All right, we move on to Carly's city manager update.
All right, good evening. First wanted to announce that we have extended the WRAP tax grant application period to March 10th. It was originally March 1st, but we've extended that. And you can find details for that on the city's website. Please apply. We have some good money that can be available to recreation and arts programs in the community. A lot of time over the past couple of weeks has been spent by staff and our lobbyists and our attorneys on legislative issues. Some of the bills that we're watching and that we are currently oppose, although there might be an update to one of them I'm not aware of. One is called SB 185. This one is the one that's been the biggest priority over the past couple of days. It would allow builders or developers to use their own building inspectors and charge us for the service when they're inspecting their properties. We're trying to negotiate a substitute that would say they can only do that if we don't inspect a structure within the statutory 3-day period, which is something we're required to do anyway. Who knows if that goes anywhere, but this could be a pretty bad bill because it would be inspected. You'd be buying homes that were inspected by the developers and not by any city government or municipal government. HB 460 is another one that's related to employee conscience bill that would basically allow employees to refuse to do tasks if it violates their conscience. That one, it seems to be like a sacred cow for leadership for some reason. It is probably going to pass. It will involve some big policy reforms on our end. And I think some of the public institutions tried to kill it and just were kind of threatened with retribution. So we're going to have to probably swallow that one. I don't know where that one came from. It's something that's going to be difficult to implement, and we'll see how it plays out throughout the state. HB 518 would basically make non-conforming structures that are more than 5 years old, like conforming by law. So we wouldn't be able to enforce a non-conforming status on that. Also not great bill. We have plenty of those in town that we would like to bring in into conformance, but maybe won't be able to. And then finally, HB 354, which appears to be going nowhere, which would make changes to truth and taxation process and basically would require a vote by the general public if we wanted to raise our certified tax rate for any municipality. So that one appears to be dead, which is great, but we're still kind of watching out for it. I wanted to give an update quickly. King Creek and dispersed parking are both underway. You've probably seen dispersed parking in King Creek. They've already started to mill it, right, Michael? I haven't driven down there yet. Yeah.
It's milled.
It's milled. It's probably an improvement, actually.
Get a complaint from somebody from the Cane Creek condos that the vibrations were
Oh, yeah.
a problem, but I reached out to her. Yeah.
Bring it down.
My understanding is that's all gonna be done tomorrow, so hopefully that vibration ceases.
It is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But it was-
It makes me
Um,
very happy to drive down there and see that all.
yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
satisfying. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just goodbye, old road.
Looks
Thanks for
better now
nothing.
than it was when we had that road on it.
So another thing that should be just on everyone's radar, we have our contract with the solid waste district or the solid waste authority is expiring, I believe, at the end of May. Colin and I have met. I have met with Mike Kennerly many, many times. I think I have a proposed approach forward, some terms for you guys all to consider. Colin and I both, I think, are on the same page. So the next step will be really producing a kind of a new contract, a new interlocal agreement for your review. I think we're really close with that contract. I don't know if there might be some big discussions, but I think we can get there. I'm pretty confident. And even if we go past the deadline, I don't see them disrupting service, and they don't want us to exercise our option to extend it. So they've been a really good partner in this negotiation. And just reach out to me or Colin if you have questions about what we propose. But and finally, we're still trying to negotiate some terms on dispatch services with the county. I just sent over an MOU to begin a negotiation. It's not actually the end of the negotiation, but hopefully I don't know if it's the commission administrator or the county commission who makes the decision about that MOU. But hopefully we come to some sort of more permanent agreement when it comes to the provision of this essential and critical service. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Carly. Move on to council reports and we'll start with you, Jason.
This is my off 2 weeks, so I didn't have any. Yeah,
You don't have anything?
this is my off 2 weeks. Nothing.
We talked on the phone a lot.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I spoke with the mayor quite a bit about dispatch. Had some good conversations with the fire department, with EMS. And I spent today texting and calling legislatures about some bills, specifically in regards to the EMS tax that is looking that there's a bill on the Hill to split that between 5 or 6 different agencies.
The rural health.
The rural health sales tax, was set up to kind of support 2 entities. And now the legislature's thrown in things like solid waste, search and rescue, avalanche forecasting, and police departments, I think, in there, which could really, in a rural area like ours, dilute those funds to, too much, that it wouldn't benefit anybody and stuff. So, and yeah, and that's getting ready, studying up on for next week's trip to Washington with Joette and Mary and Jacques, and trying to get some things set up back there to discuss some of the issues that we're having here. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
So there.
Great.
That's all.
Caitlin.
I also didn't have much. I've been tracking the legislative session, and I've been lobbying on some bills and appropriations. non-tied to the city, but just have been actively watching, and have been participating in the League of Cities and Towns Legislative Policy Committee meetings, so hearing about, and it's nice to know that the city's tracking a lot of what they are. And then I had a meeting with the mayor, and that's about it. Thank you, Luke.
Kind of same story. Our planning commission meeting got canceled, so that didn't happen. I wasn't able to make the GWISA board meeting. We had what we believe was probably salmonella hit our house. So yeah, not fun evening. But at the LHC meeting, Mary McGann stepped in to replace Trish Hardeen as the county commission representative. Cora Phillips also joined to kind of begin discussions about developing policies and procedures for extreme weather events that take the unhoused individuals in our community into consideration. The Free Health Clinic is providing a vision clinic this coming May. There is currently a wait list, but it's important to get on that list as it's kind of like first sign up, first served. And then the Homeless Veterans Fellowship has rapid rehousing funds and shelter available for unhoused veterans. So if anybody knows of any individuals who are unhoused or at risk of being unhoused that are also veterans, it's a really great place to reach out to. And then, yeah, I had my meeting with the mayor, and that's about it.
Thanks, Luke. Colin.
I had a meeting with the mayor. We talked a lot about the legislative session. I attended an e-bike subcommittee of the Motorized Trail Committee and the Trail Mix Committee meeting, where we're working to figure out where e-bikes, where this new technology fits in our transportation and recreation landscape. I was able to attend a solid waste meeting. The bulk of that meeting was a discussion about an employee loan program and revamping it. And then I had a RAPTAC meeting yesterday where we spent a good bit of time reviewing the committee member applicants and chose one to recommend to the mayor. And then we also talked about and discussed extending the deadline to March 10th for grant applicants. So.
Thank you.
Yes.
Connie.
Didn't have a whole lot either. I had a meeting with the mayor and I went to the Housing Authority meeting, which was short and sweet also. It was right before the nine folks that moved into Arroyo Crossing? 9 homes? 8. Okay. It was just before that open house. I wasn't able to go to the open house because I was at another meeting. And I did miss the museum meeting the other night because when there's a holiday, we have to work late. So I had to work late and it was dark and cold when I got home. And that's about it.
Thank you, Tawny. Speaking of dark, thank you, Jason and Luke, for weighing in on the misinformation that's going around on social media about our dark sky initiatives that are taking place. I appreciate you being so brave to do that and kind of, and helping people understand that we're not turning off the lights in Moab, we're just making it better. So thank you. Carly and I met with Paul Larson, who's the Chief Law Enforcement Ranger at the National Park Service. We discussed a variety of issues. And also, if you haven't heard, the Southeast Utah Group Park Service Superintendent has been named. Her name is Lena Pace. Carly and I had the privilege of meeting with her a few months back. She's been the acting superintendent out there for a while. I think she's going to be a really good fit. She comes from the Washington, D.C. office. She was the director of the Office of Public Trust, and she's worked at Glacier Bay in Alaska, Lake Mead, Blue Ridge Parkway. She's got loads of experience, and I think she'll do a really good job for us with the Park Service. Had a meeting with the AOG last week. It was very good to hear that our CDBG application for Swanee Park Playground equipment was #1 on the list because Richard did such a great job in preparing that application. I don't know what that means. Hopefully we're going to get some positive feedback that we got the grant. So as soon as we do, we'll let you know. Let's see. And my big focus this week was, of course, on the legislation issues. This is the last week, got 3 more days to go. You never know what's going to come up you know, there's always something that surprises us at the end. I did speak with Representative Lyman today about House Bill 185. He said that he would oppose it. And I also spoke to him about another bill you may have heard about or not, is House Bill 562. And it's really referred to the Major League Baseball stadium legislation that Salt Lake County, they are creating a fair park district. And part of that proposal was to include 1.5% of the TRT from the entire state to go directly to that district for that stadium. I had a lot of heartburn with that because I think we would prefer if they were going to raise the TRT that it comes directly to the city, in opposed to Salt Lake City. Representative Lyman told me that they did remove that language from the bill. And so, but he also mentioned it's going to come back up. So we need to keep prepared for that probably in the interim session. I also suggested that he and I and Jason meet with him to talk more about TRT in general. And so he agreed to do that. So that I thought was interesting. Also, you may have heard about a bill called there's two bills, Senate Bill 172 and House Bill 502. It was the critical infrastructure and mining bill. It was about the gravel pits. It was primarily related to the pit that they're proposing up in Parley's Canyon, but that got pulled. And so that's now not going to be considered. They did put it into a study committee. And then the bill, House Bill 558, that was proposed to increase municipals TRT up to 2%. That also is not going anywhere. And then one last thing, I think at one of our last meetings last year, it was presented that the governor had recommended a huge budget for affordable housing and homelessness. And just so you know, this is how much the governor's budget means to our legislators. None of his funding was appropriated. $192 million he proposed for homelessness support programs, and the legislature did not appropriate any money to his. So just keep that in mind. When you hear about the governor's budget in the future, it really doesn't mean anything until it's actually, the legislature actually appropriates the money. So that is all I have. Jason, he mentioned we'll be going to Washington, D.C. on the 10th of March through the 14th. We've got meetings with the Essential Air Service set up, meetings with the National Nuclear Regulatory Commission, meetings with the National Park Service, and then a lot of congressional meetings with folks that related to the UMTRA site and funding and transfer of the property. So we're going to have a busy schedule, and it's going to be good, and we'll report on that when we come back. We are thinking about canceling the May 10th meeting. We'll decide this March 10th, sorry. I'm looking forward to spring. But we'll decide on Thursday when we have our agenda prepped and see what's, if there's anything pressing. But if there isn't anything pressing, we'll probably cancel. We'll let you know. And that's all I have. I would like to go into a very brief closed session to discuss sale of real property, just to get you updated on some of the things we talked about last week. So if I could have a motion to go into closed session for the strategy or to discuss the sale of real property.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
All right,
Discuss the
we got a
growth.
motion by Tanya, seconded by Jason.
Perfect. She didn't say so much faster.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Wrong hand.